Facebook is trying to delete me. Big tech is trying to delete us, our movement. We must stop them. You are smart.
Are you smart? Smart people should be able to recognize the difference between fact and fiction. Like Candace Owens here, she is a peddler of straight fiction. And here she is now crying that she's no longer allowed to peddle that fiction on private networks. Again, they're crying that there's censorship going on, that their freedom of speech is being shut down. You are free to step out on the street and say whatever it is you want. But on private networks such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you can't. You're not allowed to just spew utter monkey bullshit.
Long ago, you stopped believing in the corrupt corporate media. You canceled the newspapers and cable shows and began reading your news from social platforms. Dominant on those platforms were conservative voices, like mine. We are the Americans who did not have a voice in traditional media. Honestly, do you think the left wants me to have a platform to speak? But I can have a voice. Here, on my own social platforms. I can be heard. That freedom infuriates the left, who used to own complete control over our information. So they hatched a plan to silence me and all of us conservatives. And Facebook is paying them for it.
Now, understand what she means by the left can't stand this because the left has always had control of the media. What she's truly saying is journalism, journalists. See, understand something, that when a journalist makes a mistake, they have to correct it. They have to go on and say, I made a mistake, and they can lose their jobs. Like Sean Hannity, for instance. Sean Hannity is not a journalist. He is an entertainer, just like Candace Owens and a lot of the conservatives that she was showing. And one of those conservatives was Donald Trump. As entertainers, they could say whatever they want. There's no repercussions from that. They get to spew lies and conspiracy theories and get paid to do it because that's what they're there for. They're simply there to entertain their audience. And Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and these different social media companies have finally begun to get the hint. They're responsible for who they let in their house and what they do in that house.
Here is how it works. In 2016, hysterical liberals had to find someone to blame for their humiliating loss to Donald Trump. In their minds, they could not possibly have lost due to their own horrendous candidates or policies or their own failing message, so they attacked the one thing that they did not have total control over: social media companies.
One of my greatest regrets in running the company is that we were slow in identifying the Russian information operations in 2016.
Speak for a moment about automated bots that spread disinformation.
We were able to determine that a number of Russian media organizations that were sanctioned by the Russian regulator were operated and controlled by this internet research agencies.
How many accounts of this type have you taken down?
The ones that we've pegged back to the IRA, we can identify the 470 in the American elections and the 270 that we specifically went after in Russia last week.
And also in this partisan climate, Stephanie, what's significant, more than 900 pages of this report are bipartisan.
And again, a 3-year investigation. There is substantial focus on this report on Paul Manafort, the Trump campaign chairman. In the initial beginning of the Trump campaign, he is currently serving a federal sentence at home on federal fraud charges that stem from the Mueller report. But what does this report tell us that's new?
It calls Manafort the most direct tie between senior Trump campaign officials and Russian intelligence officials. While campaign chairman, Manafort secretly shared internal info for Kilimnik and denied that Russians hacked the Clinton campaign. After the election, Manafort worked with Kilimnik to undermine evidence that Russia interfered, including creating the claim that we still hear repeated today that Ukraine, not Russia, interfered in 2016. And the report even raises the possibility of Manafort's potential connection to Russia's hacking and leaking, but the detail there, Stephanie, is redacted. The committee's bipartisan conclusion, Manafort's high-level access and willingness to share information with individuals closely affiliated with the Russian intelligence services represented a grave counterintelligence threat.
Now, what I've always been infuriated by, honestly, is how these conservatives like Candace Owens, because it's not all conservatives, it's just these people who lack moral character. What they do is that they project their own monkey bullshit onto other people. What she started off with saying is that hysterical liberals could not take their defeat to Donald Trump, and so they needed to lash out at social media. That's what hysterical conservatives are doing right now. And they're lashing out at everyone else but their own leadership. It can't be that they were lied to. It can't be that they've got it wrong. It must be the other half of America, or it must be America itself. What they have been peddling is hatred of America.
They applied extreme pressure to silence or censor fake news, which was just a fancy way of saying news that they don't like. Facebook bent to that pressure and created a fact-checker network with godlike powers over all of us. Here is how Facebook fact-checking works.
How does Facebook select its fact-checking partners? According to their journalism project, Facebook's independent third-party fact-checkers are all certified by the International Fact-Checking Network, IFCN. The IFCN, a subsidiary of the journalism research organization Poynter Institute, is dedicated to bringing together fact-checkers worldwide. The IFCN's code of principles include a series of commitments that organizations must adhere to in order to promote excellence in fact-checking. Nonpartisanship and fairness, transparency of sources, transparency of funding and organization, transparency of methodology, open and honest correction policy. Let's go over that again. Open and honest correction policy. That's something that Candace Owens and the rest of the conservatives that are being removed from social media do not have. They have no correction policy. When they make a mistake, that they just deny that they made a mistake and they keep going. These people are not journalists again. They're here to simply mislead for the sake of their own greed and money.
Whenever we say anything they disagree with, these fact checkers write a vicious partisan hit piece. Then they harass us and our audience by slapping hazardous warning labels on what we have posted. Many times, those labels say missing context or disputed. Yes, thanks, Facebook. Every political argument in America is disputed. Every argument is indeed missing some context. But the insanity continues. These hack checkers, as I like to call them, would be just an annoyance, but Facebook gives them the ability to destroy the reach of our content, so we cannot communicate with you. They demonetize our pages so we can't make a living producing content for our audiences. This is why I am suing the Facebook fact checkers. I'm suing them on behalf of you, your favorite creators and news sites, on behalf of our freedom of speech and thought.
Now, it's important to see what she does here, right? She's saying that she's suing Facebook for her audience and other conspiracy theorists. If you see that what she put up there was a Kamala Harris comment that she made on Facebook that got her in trouble. According to the New York Times, in a Facebook post on Tuesday night, Candace Owens posted a widely shared post questioning Miss Harris's heritage. I am so excited that we get to watch Kamala Harris, who swore into Congress as an Indian American, now play the I'm a black woman card all the way until November. Facebook soon added a fact check to Miss Owens' post requiring users to click past a label noting that third-party fact checkers found this information has no basis in fact. According to the Associated Press, Ms. Harris has long identified as black. She was not sworn into Congress identifying only as Indian American. In interviews, Ms. Harris has regularly spoken about how her mother, who was from India, raised her black. What Ms. Owens said was that Kamala Harris was sworn in as an Indian American, and that was proven false. And so here she is crying about fiction being labeled as such by fact checkers. She's talking about her audience being deprived of her lies. This is why I've made videos calling her a coon. Because here she is trying to say that Kamala Harris is not black, despite the fact that she was raised in black culture and accepts black culture. While this woman, married to an Englishman, a member of England's parliament, he's not even American. She's married to a foreigner, was not raised in black culture, does not accept black culture, and thereby is actually projecting because she is not accepted by black culture, and thereby she's not black. She's a white woman trying to talk shit about a black woman. Understand something. To be black is not to be some race. To be black is to be a part of American culture. Black culture was created by America. It enslaved Africans and treated them in a certain way, and they responded in a certain way. And that push and pull has created what we know today as black culture. Those of us who have been raised in black culture identify as black. Those who have accepted racism as their scientific belief also call themselves black. And Candace Owens, in my understanding of it, is a white woman.
So who are these hack checkers? Well, I'm suing a site called Lead Stories. Lead Stories is run by a former CNN employee of 26 years who makes a living cannibalizing and slandering conservative content and creators. His website has published disputed fake news stories, including one that went after my content personally. And so I'm going after him personally.
Alan Duke, who she's talking about, editor-in-chief and co-founder. Right? But look, there's all of these other people. Writers and fact checkers, again, all of these other people. And something else that we covered before about Lead Story and the corrections that as journalists, they make mistakes. They don't always get it right. And because they don't always get it right, then they have a duty to print corrections. And so all on the side are their corrections, just as Facebook's journalism project said. That's true journalism.
Here's an important question. Who funds Lead Stories? According to their own masthead, Lead Stories is funded by Facebook and Google, along with ByteDance. And what is ByteDance? It's a Beijing-based company that owns the TikTok spyware app. Facebook then is paying for fact checkers funded by an arm of the Communist Party of China to censor my content here in America. This is insanity. It's un-American. It's dangerous. And it needs to stop. This is why I am fighting. Our freedoms are at stake. Our movement is at stake.
Our nation is at stake. She's fighting for her movement of falsehood and fiction. Now, I'm not going to defend who funds Top Story. I'm not. Right? Top Story is funded by multiple people, and what their mission is, which is to fact check, is kind of out there to see. Right? Let's ask the same question of Candace Owens, who works for PragerU. Now, I've tackled this in past videos, so I'll share some quick clips on who Candace Owens works for and what their messaging is. Now, Dennis Prager is founder of PragerU. It's important to understand that PragerU is not a university. It has nothing to do with higher education. PragerU prides itself as releasing short videos that are designed to sway public opinion and sway public opinion in a more conservative fashion, a more socially conservative fashion. He wrote a book called Why the Jews? The Reason for Anti-Semitism. The author wrote that hatred of the Jews arises from resentment over Jews' acceptance of the doctrine that they are God's chosen people, charged with bringing a moral message to the world. The book says that calls for Jews to culturally assimilate as well as opposition to Zionism are both forms of anti-Semitism. Now, it's important to put that into perspective. He's claiming that God chose a separate people and gave them a moral message that they're now charged to take to the rest of the world. That means that the rest of the people are not connected to God and can't get God's message themselves. This makes the Jewish people, from this perspective, a superior people, a people that would be chosen by God, separating them from other folks. This claim of a separate people chosen by God to deliver a message that nobody else can hear is the very root of supremacy. It's the very root of European or white supremacy, in that it is something that cannot be true for the rest of us. The rest of us understand that we are also connected to God and can hear God's messages. No one is disconnected from their spirit unless they're so lost or distracted in a world of consumerism and symbolism that they can't hear their own moral voice, their own moral understanding. Higher education now has begun to challenge fundamentalist religion and its notions about history. In challenging the historicity of religion, specifically in this case, the Abrahamic branch of religion, now these conservatives don't want to hear the science. They don't want to be educated in this way. This is what's behind the whole school choice thing. They want to be able to fund their own Christian schools. It's a way of circumventing what we collectively know, or we call knowledge, and continuing to apply the old medieval concepts of history. Again, this history based in white supremacy. PragerU is a nonprofit. It is funded by, of course, billionaires. No shock to that. I'm only going to touch the top two donors. And so we start off with Dan and Ferris Wilks. They're, of course, the American petroleum industry. Ferris Wilks is married to Joanne, and the father of 11 children. He is the current pastor and bishop of the Assembly of Yahweh. Currently, the Assembly of Yahweh is a conservative Jews for Jesus type congregation. It teaches that the true religion is Jewish, not a Gentile religion. And its members celebrate the Old Testament holidays rather than those related to the New Testament. The congregation considers the Old Testament historically and scientifically accurate. The congregation considers homosexuality and abortion to be crimes. So understand, these billionaires, these one percenters, are for school choice for that reason, again, of funding private Christian schools. And they fundamentally believe that the Old Testament is historically accurate and scientifically accurate. What does that mean for everything we understand today within academia? What happens if we allow these people to educate our children in a way that does not allow them to fully explore reality, right? To take the Old Testament as literal history is to believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old. And again, these are the men funding and paying Candace Owens to say the shit that she's saying. The other backer of PragerU and Candace Owens is the Bradley Foundation. Now, the Bradley Foundation is an ultra-conservative foundation. The organization was founded in an attempt to preserve and extend the principles and philosophies of the Bradley brothers. Now, of course, we know the principles and the philosophies of the Bradley brothers, most likely, as they are also ultra social conservatives. The Bradley Foundation put a lot of money into the Citizens United ruling that the conservative courts ruled, which opened the floodgates for corporations to participate in our elections. They also were behind the Hobby Lobby case that argued corporations should have a say in women's health care. It basically said that corporations should be allowed to claim religious freedom and deny contraceptives to their female employees. Between 2008 and 2011, the Bradley Foundation donated millions of dollars to 3 anti-Muslim groups. The foundation's funding was criticized by the Council on American Islamic Relations, which described the grant recipients as an Islamophobic network. If you know anything about conservative media, it is this network of fear.
We know these battles are taking place all over the world. Do you wish to support me in my efforts against these hack checkers? Well, the easiest thing you can do right now is share this video.